Hi golfers, Rob Cheney here from GOLFTEC Singapore. This week's video we're going to discuss the old classic fundamentals of the game versus what I would consider to be the more modern fundamentals of golf, and how that can help you whether you're a brand new golfer looking to get started or if you're a more experienced player looking for the next place to work on your swing and the next area that you should be focusing on. So when you hear the word fundamentals in golf, what image does that conjure up in your head? For many, like myself, I was brought up on the old classic fundamentals of golf, things like grip, alignment, posture, stance, where I should stand, how I should stand, and how I should hold the club, even before I've begun to move the club around my body. The problem with those fundamentals, in my opinion, is that they're static. They're all static fundamentals that can be done and taught to almost anybody. I could go and grab someone from the street, bring them in this room and get them to stand and look like a golfer at setup. Problem with that is it doesn't have any direct correlation at all to their ability or skill level as a golfer. So whilst the fundamentals that were previously taught have some importance within the framework of the swing, I'm not necessarily going to suggest that they're the best place for everybody to start. And it doesn't take too much to recognize and realize that the classic fundamentals are not particularly fundamental at all. You go to any PGA Tour event and look along the driving range at just the different grips there are. There's so many different grip types. The way people put their hands on the club varies dramatically. You think about someone like Bernard Langer, who recently finished very high up in the Masters tournament. He's playing with a grip where he has 4 knuckles on his left hand showing. He's got his grip turned significantly to the right on the shaft, and yet he's played some phenomenal golf for a very, very long time. He's had an incredibly long and successful career. And he was playing that final round, if you remember, with Bryson DeChambeau, who currently one of the longest players on tour, and he's a recent US Open champion. He's got his left hand turned almost as far to the left on the grip as you possibly could. So I think there's about 100 degrees of difference there in the orientation of the left hand grip. So to suggest that there is a perfect grip for every golfer to start would be a very strange and unusual premise to start from, because there's plenty of evidence that the best players in the world have very different grips. And it isn't just grips. You walk along that same driving range and some golfers are aimed to the left of their target, other golfers are aimed to the right. There's plenty of historical evidence of this being true, with the greatest golfer who's ever lived, Jack Nicklaus, aiming to the left, choosing to play a fade. Arnold Palmer aiming to the right, choosing to play more of a draw shape. So again, plenty of evidence to suggest that standing parallel to your target line and standing on train tracks might not necessarily be the best thing for you to be doing to progress your golf. So if I'm going to stand here and tell you that the classic fundamentals probably aren't the best place for you to be spending your time and your attention if you're looking to improve your game, I better be able to stand here and give you something else to think about. And those would be the modern fundamentals, most recently classified by Stack and Tilt as being the 3 fundamentals of contact, power, and curve. So we're going to teach you how to control the low point of your swing, swing fast enough to hit the ball far, and swing with a face-to-path relationship control that allows you to have some directional control to your golf shots. And the big difference with these fundamentals, what I would call the modern fundamentals or golf's real fundamentals, is that they're dynamic. Compared to the old classic fundamentals, which are static, each one of the modern fundamentals that I'm going to talk about requires a skill level, and they're happening in motion. Controlling the low point happens in motion. Hitting the ball far requires motion. Controlling the curve of your golf ball requires you to swing and create a motion. So the dynamic fundamentals are completely different in that sense from the old classic static fundamentals. And that's a really important distinction to draw, because the best golfers in the world can be identified by their ability to control the modern fundamentals. Whereas I've seen golfers who have wonderful grips, stand beautifully square to the target line, aim their club face precisely towards the target, and they can't break 100. So let's talk about the modern fundamentals and what you should be spending your time focusing on if you're looking to improve your golf. So let's start with the first of those fundamentals, which is contact, which said another way is controlling the low point of the swing, which said another way is controlling where the club contacts the ground. So the point where the club hits the ground is something you can use to differentiate golfers of different skill levels. For example, the best golfers in the world, when they swing and make contact with the ball, hit the ball first and hit the ground second. They do that pretty much 100% of the time. The very rare occasion that they mishit the ball, you'll be so surprised that they've done it, that suggests that it's something they do so infrequently, and that separates them as good golfers, their ability to hit the ground in the same place over and over again. Controlling the low point is also a conversation about location of strike. So controlling the low point in terms of where you hit the ground is talking about it from a vertical point of view, whether the club's coming in too high or too low. But there's also a horizontal component to consider. Once again, the best players in the world are hitting the center of the sweet spot and the center of the club time and time again. So that skill that they've developed in terms of moving the club around their body, bringing it back to make contact with the ball in the center of the face and then striking the ground afterwards, again, separates them as good players. And the poorest golfers don't find the center of the face particularly very often. They have a mishit pattern, which could be heel or toe biased, or it could be random. And then from a ground point of view, golfers are struggling with hitting the top of the ball. Poorest players often miss the ball, and they also hit the ground way before the ball. So if you wanted to learn to control the low point, you'd do a few things that I would prescribe. I'd put my weight on my front foot, I'd have my hands slightly in front of the club head, I'd swing back with my arms straight, and I'd swing through with my arms straight, moving my weight and transferring my weight to the left. As I do so, I've covered this topic multiple times in multiple videos. I'm so passionate about its importance that I've done lots and lots of topics and tips on this, so you can go back and take a look at some. But think about it like this: if you were starting out as a complete beginner and you were taught how to chip the golf ball by the side of the green, maybe chip the ball 10 or 15 yards, how would you be told to do that? You'd be told to put your weight on your front foot, put your hands slightly in front, keep your arms reasonably straight, and just hit the ground, okay? And in doing so, you're starting to teach the golfer the very basics of controlling the low point. But of course, you can't play golf like that. The best players not only control the low point, they also swing far enough and fast enough to hit the ball far enough to reduce the length of the golf course and make it playable. You can't play golf if you can just control the low point and chip the ball 15 yards. It would take you forever to reach the green. So you have to combine the ability to control the low point and hit the ball far enough. And it's at this point that conversation starts to, I guess, get a little bit cloudier for a lot of players about how to do that, how to move, how to get this club to go far enough around them and for them to be able to come down and still be able to control the low point. What really tends to happen as golfers move into bigger swings is they lose the ability to control the low point for one reason or another. Sometimes it's because they start to move and sway away from the golf ball. Other times it's other reasons. Arms start to flex, they have other issues. Those issues can be plentiful, they can be many, but they are very specific to the individual. So it's important you seek out some individual instruction to make sure you're working on the right piece. But just understand that your task is to control the low point and swing fast enough to hit the ball far enough to shorten the golf course. That your task is to hit the ground in the same spot, so to control the low point whilst making a big enough and fast enough swing And the final fundamental is controlling the direction, which requires a somewhat functional club face to club path relationship. The two main factors that influence the direction and the curve of your golf ball and your golf shot is where the club face is aiming when you make contact with the ball, so the direction of the loft, and the direction that the club head is traveling, that's the path of the club. If you can find something that you're able to do with some degree of consistency, whether that produces a ball that curves slightly left to right or a ball that curves slightly right to left, that's a good place to work from. Establishing a face-to-path relationship that is somewhat consistent and produces one particular direction of curve is really, again, what the best players are doing. Sure, they have the ability to move the ball both directions when they need to, but I can assure you that they are not moving the ball in all sorts of different directions on all sorts of different shots and holes just for the sake of it. They're playing their stock shot, their stock directional shot 99 times out of 100. If they're doing that, I'm pretty sure you should be doing that as well. Find the shape that most suits you. Work with a coach to find a relationship with the face to path that allows you to manage that amount of curve so it doesn't become too extreme. And then settle on that being your shot pattern and learn to play with that shot pattern. So if you wanted to go away and work on genuine fundamentals that are actually going to improve your ball striking, I would always start with controlling the low point. That for me is the biggest deficiency demonstrated by mid to high handicap golfers. They top the ball too frequently, thin the ball, hit behind the ball. They basically miss-hit the ball frequently enough that they can't control their distance, they can't control their shots. I'm indoors on a mat here. If most of you are probably going to only have access to a driving range, you're going to say, how can I do that if I'm not hitting from grass? So I'm going to show you a little exercise. We've got some tape here. I'm going to place some tape on the mat, and you can practice trying to hit the ground just after the tape. So I've just zoomed in here onto the important stuff. We've got the tape down on the mat. My club's going to sit just on that piece of tape, and I'm going to make some swings where I try to strike the mat after the tape. Key pieces that help me to do this is to have my weight forward, my lower body forward, to have the handle slightly forwards, and as I swing back and transition into some sort of downswing, I keep my weight moving towards the target. So I can strike the mat in the same place every single time. And if you can do that, we can introduce the ball. I'm going to put the ball just in front of the line by an inch or two, and we're going to go ahead and try and hit the shot without disturbing the tape. That was a really nicely struck shot. Fundamental number one, contact. What does solid contact produce? It produces a repeatable distance. Repeatable distance allows you to make better decisions in terms of club selection, stops you making those errors in terms of missing greens, primarily short, when you miss-hit shots, where you hit the ground before the ball doesn't carry as far as you want it to. So learning to hit the sweet spot, learning to control the low point is really where I would recommend you start your journey into better golf. So there you have it, golfers, a little insight into what I consider to be the modern and real fundamental tasks of the golf swing. Don't misunderstand me at any point during this video or this explanation. Am I saying that grip is not important? Certainly important. Is it fundamental in terms of there being a really precise way that everyone should place their hands on the golf club? No. You have to find a grip that helps you to conform to the three genuine fundamentals that allow you to hit the ground in the same place, swing fast enough, and ultimately control that face to path relationship, which is fundamental number 3, direction. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new to the channel, please do hit that subscribe button and do give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Share it with your friends. This video for me is a really important one for the education of the golfing masses, not just new golfers coming into this game, but for golfers who've been around for a long time, like myself, who were exposed to information that probably wasn't the most useful information for them when they were starting out. If you're still believing that changing your grip or aiming slightly to the left or slightly to the right is going to dramatically change your ball striking, you might be looking in the wrong place. So give these drills a go. Think about next time you're making a change at the driving range, is it trying to improve my low point, my contact? Is it trying to help me increase distance? Or is it trying to help me control my direction? And if it isn't helping you to do any of those 3 things, then it's probably not the right thing to be working on. Guys, until next time, thank you for watching, look after yourselves, and I'll see you next week.